Hello everybody, it's Shuko here with part 3 of the Dancer Guide. Today we're going to be talking about equipment. I know we got into E-sets and macros last time, and I did discuss a little bit of equipment throughout both of the prior videos. But for today, we're going to be talking about the gear paths that you would progress through if you're trying to gear a Dancer for endgame. So we're in Nork. The reason I decided to start here is because there's a lot of NPCs involving the gear upgrades in modern Final Fantasy. And we're going to go through a couple of these places. The first one I want to show you in Nork is Zurim. Zurim is the NPC that is responsible for domain invasion. Every time you do a domain invasion, you can get up to 80 points, or sometimes 100 if your server's beaten Miru, and you can spend those points with Zurim. He offers a lot of things, so we're going to go into some of them. The first thing I would point out is the 100-point items. If you haven't gotten some of these base items yet, I would encourage to go after these first. The Sanctity Necklace has a little bit of everything from accuracy, magic attack bonus, regen, HP, and MP. It's a really good neck piece to have if you don't have anything else, or something with multi-attack for a DPS job, or it's even good to keep after for things like Alien Edge or magical weapon skills and stuff like that. Then the Gishtuber Sash is something to make Kursna easier to be received and duration lasts longer. Not as important for a Dancer, but it's something to keep in mind. Ibani Earring has magic evasion, a little bit of dual wield. Not that Dancers need a ton of that, but it is something pretty good for a lot of jobs, and it's something I use pretty often. The Atana Ring is accuracy, magic accuracy, HP. These are all pretty good starting pieces. You will eventually go on to get better, but they're great to start with, and they really help your survivability. The Izdubar, I'm probably butchering these names, but the Izdubar Mantle is really good for weapon skills with magic and casting spells and stuff until you start to get better Ambiscade capes. Solemnity Cape is a really good damage taken idle cape. It has protection against Recharm, 4DT, and even some cure potency, which I tend to use in some of my curing sets for jobs that aren't white mage. And that's the 100-point items. We're going to go down to the 40 points, and in here is what I would consider one of the best starting armors. These are the domain invasion armors, and they all have massive bonuses when you're fighting the dragons. Early on, this is the only way you would survive against a Miru. But we're going to go down to the Dancer set. It's called the Hadric. And you'll see that they all have accuracy, range accuracy, magic accuracy, evasion. Pretty nice chunk of magic evasion, which is something is a lot more important than you may think. Magic defense bonus, some haste, and then these crazy fast cast 50, trust level +1, and domain invasion, of course. So you ignore those. But the rest of these stats are very balanced and pretty strong. Go down to the body, 4% haste, lots of magic evasion, a little bit of accuracy, and then it goes insane for domain invasion. Same thing here. Nothing fancy, but it will keep you alive. Its defensive numbers are high, and it's a good starting set. So if you're looking for something at 119 and you're not sure where to go, this is a really good place to start, is these 40-point armors. And those are the 5 pieces for Dancer. There's not much to say about them, honestly, but they do serve a purpose, and that's a basic start. Then you see the weapons here, the 80 points. The dagger, again, not much to write home about. It's actually pretty even low in skill, 119. But in domain invasion, it turns into insanity. Gotta love it. But I wouldn't really shop here for swords on this category. We're going to go down a little bit to 200 points. And in here is the Esha Ruan weapons that drop from the T2 monsters. And they're all job-specific equipment. So we're going to scroll down to the dancer one. Here we are, the Enchufla. So this has dual wield 4, waltz potency 10%, and waltz delay -2. And you can even hold 2 of them because they're EX. You could dual wield this. These all also have augments, and there's 4 paths of all the Ruan augments, depending on the direction you want to take it. I usually turn these into waltzing daggers when I'm being very defensive and support in the endgame. But early on, you may want to set these to be a bit more aggro, especially until you're able to get better daggers. But I would suggest picking up 2 of these if you're a starting dancer. There's better stuff to get into later, but this is where I would start. So we pull off of here, and then you look at 400 points. And then here's the abjurations for the Escher Ruan. The set that you would be looking for, there's a few pages down here. You're looking for the Jovian set. This is the Adhamar armor, and I'll show you that in a moment. But the head, the body, and the hands are very good for dancers DPS. Especially when you're not in the hardest of endgame and you're going solo by yourself. And the legs and the body are good too, or legs and feet, but they're more for range jobs. So we're going to move back from here, and we're going to look at 600 points. These are a bunch of earrings. There is a one for dagger skill, but honestly, I wouldn't encourage it to go into that. Or actually, I stand corrected. It's all magic skills and shield, etc. So no, nothing for 600. 800, however, has a dagger called the Skin Flare. Has triple attack and subtle blow. And this also could be augmented. But the 800 points, just like the armors, are from Jima, the final Rasvidi zone. And they're augmented randomly. We'll get into that in a minute. Let's scroll down a little bit here, and I'm going to show you the set from Jima, which you can get here. It's called the Herculean. And I've talked about a couple of these pieces, like the head is one of the best fast cast pieces you can get, especially with a small aug of fast cast. The body has critical hit rate, and you can do all types of weird stuff with it. The hand have triple attack, and you can get even more on them. The feet, or the legs, not so much stuff, but you can get phalanx on them, or refresh, or treasure hunter. And the feet have magic attack bonus on them, and subtle blow, and triple attack. So if you get even more triple attack or a quad attack aug during a divine might augment event, they're very powerful. But I would not use these to TP in usually. Maybe the feet. Yeah, the feet are really good at the end game. But the rest of this stuff these are what I would call macro pieces, or things you switch into for a moment just to get an effect, and then to go back into a more base piece. But that's all the stuff from that. Next up would be the 1000 point. And in here, there's this ammo Dancer can equip to give you a lot more accuracy. This is a decent starting ammo until you can get something better. But I would really encourage you to go after Odyssey's T1 Dola Hand Boss. That ammo is much better. Then you'll see stuff like Enmity Decrease. One of the only ways to lower your enmity in endgame, other than jumping as a Dragoon. The Thread Earring, I wish we could equip this. But we get the OD Earring, which gives critical hit rate 5, dex plus 10, and accuracy 10. This is a great Rudra ring. And good for anything that you would need critical hit rate, such as Evisceration. Then other than that, there's the, I'm not even trying to pronounce this, the Sijafun earring. It's waltz potency plus 10. Honestly, dancers don't Jones for waltz potency to get to the 50% cap. But early on, it might help you get there. And then there's this ring. The Tusto ring. Lots of it. Lots of defense. MP to HP conversion. And a lot of times you're going to find yourself with MP from other armors. So this is a sneaky way to get yourself a little more HP. Especially if you're soloing things that can hit for, certain amounts of HP, like 2,000. Other than that, You got monk stuff in here and all types of other stuff you can't equip. So, that's Zurim. That's why it's important to do the dragon every day for a while until you can get some of those pieces. It is totally worth it, especially early on. But honestly, there are some of the pieces from Zurim I still use in my endgame sets for many of my jobs. So I'm going to turn a little bit and come to Nolan and Osim. Nolan is the guy you would augment the Enchufla with, or any Esha Ruan items. And you would use Esha elixirs. I like to use 3 Esha elixirs plus 2, but you can use the weaker ones. You just need a lot more of them. And they go up to R15. So you would trade this dagger to them, pick the augment path, and then you start trading the dagger to them with Esha elixirs until it's maxed out. And this would be the same with the armors too, the abjuration armors. But you do have to buy or get somebody to craft you the cursed piece, and then you would trade the cursed piece and the abjuration you get from Zurim or the monster to the priest in Sandoria, and then they would convert it to you to a normal piece of armor. Then you'd bring it here to Nolan and start the augment with that. The Race and Jima armor and weapons are all managed through Osim. And Osim is random. He has 3 different stones that have different paths. And then you can pick like mage or this or that or whatever, and it will augment in that direction, depending on what jobs can equip the armor. And then occasionally, every couple months, they'll have an event called the Divine or Dark Matter Augments. And you can usually trade him a Dark Matter, and he'll put a random augment on a thing, which can even include Refresh, Treasure Hunter, all types of craziness. But since Dark Matters are a little under 1,000 per, we usually wait for the free aug. You'll see people here at JP midnight every day getting ready to, on all their mules, to change their OC mogs and hope he gives something nice. Usually, once you have all your gear, you're hoping for Quad Attack or Refresh 2, Treasure Hunter 2, Phalanx plus 5. But yeah, that's pretty much everything you would be doing in Norg. Next up, we're going to be heading over to Adolin, and I'm going to be showing you another place you can get starter gear when you just hit 99. I won't be talking today about any gear under 99 because at least in retail, there's no need to use it. You can literally just have a dagger, a weapon, and pull trust out and just kill, weaker monsters until you're 99. Just go through all the zones, and they'll kill things faster than you would be able to. So the 1 to 99 really isn't... It's almost like the new start for the game, because there's a lot of gear that you have to go after once you're 99. So I usually just tell people to get to 99 first. Don't worry about weapons or gear or past member berries or get caught up in all that. Instead, focus on that because you have a lot to do. So, for getting this set of gear, you have to go to the Peacekeepers Coalition. That's in Eastern Adolin. If you haven't been to the east side yet, you just got to cross the bridge. And it's right here to the left. So Craggy Bluff over here, he sells the weapons. Now, a lot of those first ones are pretty weak. You gotta go a couple pages down here. It's like, oh, here we go. 3,000 bailed. Now, these are a lot like the ones from Zurim, but they give bonuses in Reeves, like colonization. The ones where Wildskeeper Reeves, where you fight the bosses, and the Lair Reeves, which are kind of randomly on different maps. But nothing really to say here. In Reeves, they occasionally attack twice, which is nice. But, just a little bit of mind, a little bit of hellish for stuff for like that. So when we go to the dagger, which I believe... There we go. Gives save TP. Occasionally attacks twice. Accuracy, evasion. Just a basic 119 weapon. So that's a good thing to get to start with. But honestly, I would tell you to get the Enchufla when you can. That's a lot better. And then this NPC does the armor. Same kind of deal. Lots of weak armor you gotta get past. I think it's 4 pages in. Nah, 5? Oh. 4 pages in. Schnetic? I believe it is the Schnetic. Yep. You see a little bit of haste, good stats. Nothing really to write home about though. But it will keep you alive through a lot of the things. So we're not going to talk a ton about these armors. They get replaced pretty quickly. But you want to start yourself when you're 19 and get a 119 armor, set, and a 119 weapon, ammunition, earrings, rings, capes, belts, neck pieces, and even your shield does not affect your eye level and your power of trust if you use trust, or just generally your power level. A lot of those, it won't matter as bad. But 99% of the time, the only exception I could think of is a pixie hair plan +1. You want to be in 119 gear. So, next up, we're going to move to what I would consider the next progression point. Can anybody guess where we're going to go next? It's Mara. So, after you have a 119 set, and you started to, get a little bit of JP, started to get your macros set up and get comfortable, one of the things it's going to push you towards is trying to do skirmish, Alluvian skirmish, all those types of things, and that's important. And you should definitely get your free armors from that. But the one that's really going to matter is called Ambiscade. And that rotates out monthly. There's a different 2 sets of fights, an easy one and an intense one. And those shift usually at the same time as the patch. And the rewards will reset as well. So if you clean out the entire shop, once the patch goes through, any of your points are erased, and it all starts over again with a new set from the month. Now, use the book to start the ambuscades, and usually you have to fight a monster that's in the same family with Records of Eminence set. Once you start earning points, you talk to Gorpa, and Gorpa will wind up showing you some stuff. So you wind up going into rewards, and there's hallmarks and gallantry, and then there's also even, let's show you that first, total hallmarks. Total hallmarks are free rewards that you can get as you gain points, and I pulled some of them out already. It gives you free remedies, Objalis seals, which give you triple points for one run, but I already have all of the Ambiscade armors, so these coupons, I rarely pull them out anymore because I don't need them. But for free, essentially, you get a complete set of, in this month, it would be either the Flama, Talia, Mumu, Ayanmo, or the Malquis. And those are pretty strong. This is the normal quality, and they go up to +2. But it's free. You don't have to spend any points towards them. And you'll get a whole set once you have 1,050 hallmarks. And then you start to get the fingers, the ring, at 1,350. A weapon, which you can start to upgrade at 1,500. And then it even gives, if you keep going, you'll get a +1 set as well. So you can actually get 2 sets of armor for 2 separate jobs per month for free. And then it goes into metals and fibers, which is how you upgrade those things and take them further. And you can buy those. And then eventually it ends on a special Gobidalki at 25,000. A lot of people actually go much further than that, believe it or not, once you're powerful. You can get up to 10,000 per run with a VD win and a seal. But this armor, we're going to talk about those. There are 2 sets. The one is called Mumu, and it's a critical hit rate set, which is replaced by an Odyssey set. So I don't have it to show you, but it's something that you would use initially for critical hits. I actually have it in a storage box. But that's the first set. The other set, however, I don't know, I take it back. I do have 1 piece of Numu. I keep the head around for the Waltz effects receive +9. But the legs are pretty good for a while. They had DT8 in critical hit rate. It's a pretty decent set of armor. The one I keep around a little bit more is actually called the Mega Honda. Or Meghanada. There we go, Meghanada. I can talk. And I keep this body piece around for its critical hit damage plus 6%. I specifically use it for Climactic Flourish. But the legs are also very good. They have triple attack with lots of defensive properties, and they're really good to use until you can find better as well. It's also a very good shooting set for if you ever pursue shooting jobs in the beginning. But these are the two sets that you get access to through Ambiscade with Dancer. And I would encourage completing both of them, especially as you're crawling through all this and getting yourself powerful. That also said, the other weapon that you can get from Ambuscade is called the Kaja Knife, or Itoko Knife. It starts off, and then it goes Aja, Aleti, and then Kaja, and then finally, after you get enough upgrade items and a pulse weapon, which is pretty hard to do, it's kind of a random number game, you can upgrade the Kaja Knife to the turret. And this is the final form of the Ambuscade Dagger. Each of the Ambuscade weapons are based upon the weapon skill quests that you had to do and get 500 points on to unlock weapon skills. And it unlocks it for you. I'm switching to the second page, and you'll see main hand, Evisceration. Evisceration damage plus 50%. Increases critical hit rate based on lower TP. So what this actually translates to is a 40% bonus to critical hit rate on each strike if you use the weapon skill at 1000 TP, meaning like really just as soon as you're able to. It's a spamming dagger. And it does increase the damage a lot. It actually will outdamage all the legendary weapons in Zerg if you spam Evisceration. That's a little bit boring, but sometimes you are doing a Zerg strategy content with your alliance, and it's good to know how to pump out the highest numbers when required. But that's the finished Ambuscade Dagger, and I highly encourage people to get this one. It's an excellent offhand, it's an excellent main hand until you get better, and I'm never intending to get rid of it unless something incredibly amazing came out. In a way, it's its own Rayma. But that's Mara, and that's pretty much everything that you can get. The rings also come from the Ambuscade sets. They're useful for a period of time, but you do move on from them as you get better. But I would encourage completing that. After you finish Ambuscade, you've probably started to collect some of your job-specific equipment. I've talked about this in prior videos. There are 3 sets. The one set is the artifact set, which you get through quests, and it's level 50 to 60. Some of it you'll find in coffers. Some jobs you have to craft it later, jobs like Blue Mage and Geomancer and so forth. But it is the first set of job-specific gear you get. The second comes from Dynamis, and is called the Relic Armor set. And the third comes from Abyssea, and is called the Imperium Armor set. I'm bringing all 3 up now, and I'm in Port Juno, next to this elf, because this is the elf that upgrades those armors into the modern form. So, essentially what happens is you'll take the armor to this lady. She has a list of things that you need, like Rems chapters from BCNM fights, and crafting items, so like a Phoenix Wing or a Marlboro Fiber. And for relic items, you would need the ancient currency that you farm. And for the artifact armors, you would usually need like a BCNM thing. And you combine them all, trade them to her, and she takes the items for the day. And then after Vanadil Day has passed, she will give you the upgraded item. At first it goes to 109, and then it goes to 119. And then for relic and artifact, you actually start to go to a different NPC to take it to +2 and +3. But this woman manages you're taking any of the 3 sets into 109 and 119. so you'll be spending a lot of time around her. She also stores Rem's tails for you. So any extras you don't want clogging your inventory, just dump them with her. There is one thing I'll point out, however. We're going to walk next to this old NPC. You can't upgrade Relic or Artifact Gear to 109 until you have access to Limbus. And that involves getting through Chains of Promathia until you're able to access C, or Alteu. So you have to get some missions done before you can upgrade your job-specific equipment. And that's to be expected. So I wanted to point her out to you, because this is an important step. And once you get some Ambiscade gear, you really do want to start getting your job-specific equipment modern as well, at least up to 119. After you have a good Ambuscade setup and some of your job-specific gear to 119, you may have completed Rhapsodies of Vana'diel, which involves completing a little bit of content in all of the expansions. Well, after you do that, you're able to access content called Omen, which is in Reisenjima, and that's how you upgrade Artifact to +2 to +3. I won't get into the details of all of that content, but essentially you're gathering items and saving a lot of money, and then trading it to a goblin, and they do a pretty similar upgrade process to the Elvan. For Relic Gear, you come here, and you talk to this spot, and same kind of deal. Trade him items, he takes the items, and he'll take it from +2 to +3. But you also have to have access to Dynamis Divergence, and you also have needed to either enter the zone relative to the slot. So Juno is for legs, Bastok is for hands, Windurst is for head, and Sandy is for feet. And if you win the first T1 boss, which is the giant statue you'll see us fight in some of my videos, you can do the +3 for the job that you're on. We call that a zone unlock for the job. But once you have all that, you can start talking to this spot here, which is the NPC Goblin. And he appears if you have access. You actually have to trade him 100-piece ancient currency to get a permanent key item dial. And then you can look through the list once you access stuff, and he'll be able to tell you what you're able to upgrade based upon what zones you've won. So like when I load up the warrior list, I've already done all the wins with warrior, so you see all the +2 show up, and then the +3s with the yellow border. And same with the dancer set, which is called Horus Attire. And these get very expensive. Very, very expensive. But they're pretty good. And we're going to talk about them a bit here. The one you would want to worry about from this guy is this piece right here, because of weapon skill damage 10, saber dance enhancement, and jig duration. But there's other good ones. The body's really good. I think I've shown you some of that. But that said, what about the Imperium set, right? So that is about to come out. It was supposed to come out for August, but they had to do a small delay, and they say it's going to come out this month. But Imperium will be managed in Lethalia. And when Sortie comes out, we'll spend our points and drops from there to upgrade it. This is Lethalia. And I don't know where the NPC is going to be located, but I have a couple guesses it's going to be over here. Near this spot. No spoilers or anything, but just a hint. Or maybe this spot over here. But that's my thoughts. Now, that being said, I could warp to Reisenjima and show you the NPCs that you would go to. They're at warp 10 though, and the one enters Omen, the other one upgrades armor. 2 goblins. So those are the 3 JSEs. Once you have those, there's actually other armor you may want to pursue. We're back in Adeline. One of the armors that I didn't point out to you from Ambiscade earlier is the cape. So every job has a cape from Ambiscade, and you can start to augment it with custom augments from the Ambiscade items that you can buy. There's sap, syrup, I think, resin, threads, and dust, and they all have different augment paths that you can pick. So I actually have a couple of these for my favorite jobs, and some jobs I'm more basic in, I only have like one or two. But they're very useful and a must-have. But the reason I came here is there's actually a second cape that you can get. And these are called Wildskeeper Reeve capes. And Wildskeeper Reeve capes drop from any kinds of reeve, especially Wildskeeper Reeves. And you can trade in 3 of other jobs once in the library and get the one you actually want. So you kind of want to save these, even if it's the job you don't like. Some jobs, these are very, very useful. That said, let's move to Eastern Adeline by the statue of the goddess. At the statue of the goddess, you'll see an old couple here, Austin and Lola. Austin is the person you would trade items to get a skirmish or a Luvian skirmish key item to enter. And those are pretty useful. Skirmish is pretty old, and a lot of the gear isn't super useful. But I do want to show you some of it. Not that one. Here we go. So this piece has triple attack, haste 7. You'll see that it's 113 though, right? 113, 113, snapshot. Not every piece has nice things. Now, for a lot of jobs, there's a hand piece here for White Mage that has fast cast 7, and it's still a must-have. These are just starter gear. And if you're struggling to complete certain content, you can actually get P-Wings to upgrade this gear to the 119 version. So you also have the L-Wings that you'll sometimes find from the Mimic or doing Skirmish. You can trade to her, and she'll store them. It's pretty useful, and that's one set that you can complete. I'm only showing it to you because it's an option. It's not the greatest gear, though, and I wouldn't go after specifically Skirmish gear. But that NPC Austin also manages a Luvian skirmish gear. And we're going to head over towards that now. To get there quickly, you can actually use the Enigmatic Warp at a waypoint to Yorcia a wheel. Now, if you don't have that, you got to walk out there first. But this is where the NPC is for that. Now, when you do Yorcia wield, is Luvian skirmish, you'll get these things called M-Wings, or Meladopt Wings. And this NPC here takes them. And you can exchange things. Now, every Luvian skirmish item in the game is accessible from here. Let's see if I can find which one's the dagger. That's the sword. There we go. And these can be augmented too. So this is a decent starting weapon as well. Actually, it's a little bit better on the offhand maybe. But that's not why I'm showing you these. I actually would want to go down to the armor. The Taeon set is a set of armor that can be accessed by Dancer. And these seem pretty basic, right? But they're also augmentable. And it's pretty similar to Osim, but you can actually do 3 separate random augments: a snow aug, a dusk aug, and a leaf aug. And you can start to customize armors to do some interesting things. Now, this gear does get replaced and becomes just an equip piece in the endgame. Usually a phalanx piece or a fast cast or something that you're missing from your equip set pieces. But these can be fleshed out to do a lot of things, and I would highly encourage you to complete the entire Taeon set. So this is one that you can go after as well. So far, we've talked about the sets from Zurim and Domain Invasion. We've talked about the Baled gear from the Peacekeepers Coalition, Ambiscade gear in Mara, Alluvian skirmish, and regular skirmish armor pieces. Next up, I'm going to work, and we're going to head to Adalin one more time, because there's one more set of gear, or one more armor set I'd like to describe to you. And that, it comes from Delve. Delve is essentially a mirror version of the zones, and you go through and you wind up fighting an alternate version of the zone boss. And you can spend the points you get from Delve, and you can spend them to buy any drop from zones that you've beaten, or from any NM from that zone. So once you've beaten all the Delves, you can actually buy anything, if you have enough points. So you can do that from the Inventors Coalition. If you run across, there's an NPC, and you can spend any plasm that you saved up towards any of those drops. We're going to head over there, and there's a couple of pieces I would like to show you. Go to Look Up, Western Adalin, Inventors Coalition. Then you skip the Inventors Coalition and run across to this little Taru here. Pori. It's like, you got the plasm? I will make exchange. I'm going to look at equipment. Let's look at the first set first. Okay, so the Heartseeker set. These have one piece in one zone and the other piece in another zone. And when you complete them, they give a big bonus, like 7 or 8% to dual wield. And there's also a double attack set. And I would highly encourage getting the double attack set as soon as you can, until you can get better. And honestly, it's pretty good even in endgame. So that's something you could pursue for very little. You just have to clear those zones, and you need a couple of friends. It's pretty easy content, honestly, now. So I would encourage you to go after those. Stuff like the Locust Ring for your mages is really good. And stuff like the Natura hat for mages. I know this is a dancer guide. Has fast cast 10. There are many things that you can buy from here, but the main thing I would focus on you to get is the Steel Flash earring and its set. So something to do here with gear is flesh out your accessories for many jobs. Pori. On that note, there is other gear. I've talked to you about the Dashing Subligar, and that gives shadows. That's something that's crafted. Well, first it has to be fished up, and it's rusty, horrible Subligar. And then a crafter will clean it up and turn it into the Dashing Subligar. So that's a piece of gear. There's other crafted things such as the SU4 and 5 dagger. I don't actually encourage going after that. It's neat, but their other weapons are better. And there's other armors like SU3 armor. The term set is really useful, especially the feet and the hands. And we can take a look at that next. Because unfortunately, there is some auction house times too where there's items dropped from monsters either in Abyssia or some other area, or some things like that that you could buy. And sometimes that involves a little poking. So I'm going to look over some basic things in the auction house and give my feedback. And then I'm going to talk about the last and most important part of what I consider modern gear. Y'all hear the summer festival playing in the background? Okay, so first, let's look at the daggers. The Setan Cobra is the dancer one. It lowers 40 TP cost a step, and you can wield both of them and the relic feat to take all the cost away. But you still have to have the 100 to actually activate using the ability before this can mitigate the cost. So no free steps, technically. Just free once you have 100 TP. And then there are lesser version, the HQ SU4. And then you won't even see the normal version on here. I don't think anybody's ever sold it. Nope. So from there you have the SU3 dagger. This thing drains MP like crazy to be good. I tried it for a couple months. It's not that great. The SU2 dagger. It occasionally gives haste as a proc. You'll hit the monster. It casts haste on you for a couple of minutes. It's neat, but it gets replaced. The Blurred Knife +1 occasionally attacks twice. It's a decent offhand, but again, you find better. Any of this other stuff is junk. Don't worry about it. Don't be distracted by it. Let's look at a couple hand-to-hands real quick. I would point this one out because it unlocks Dragon Kick for dancers, which they usually can't do unless they're sub-monk. And when you're in Odyssey, for instance, you don't have subjobs. So gear that gives you weapon skills can be pretty valuable. As far as swords go, the Hepatsun Rapier winds up doing something similar, and it gives Dancer access to Swift Blade, and that's really useful. But that's it on the weapon front, I would say. There isn't ammo, actually, I should point out. It's way too expensive. Bone crafters can make it, but it's still decent, I guess. Augur Lormer or Orb. Yeah, good luck saying that. The HQ version has store TP 5, good attribute bonuses, and attack 10. Another one I would point out in here is the Staunch Tathlon. If I can find it. There we go. So the Staunch Tathlon regular has minus taken 2 damage taken. Ailments resist 10, spell interrupt 10. And the +1 does 3, 11, 11. This is a really solid idle piece for when you're in danger. So this is another one I would point out. Then going to armors. To be something like the terms. Lots of magic evasion, lots of evasion, a little bit of accuracy, lots of regen and store TP. It'll keep you safe, but you won't attack very quickly. And you can only equip it when you're at 500 JPs anyway. And the rest of this stuff is mostly trash. Anything that you get from the auction house armor-wise. I will go to the terms feat. Incarcarda is parry rate. It's an ability from Rune Fencer, and it's really strong. Parry, you can actually even parry special attacks. I'm going to pop over at rings here for a little bit. I'd like to point out the Chirrut rings. They have Subtle Blow, Store TP, and Regen and Accuracy, and they're really nice. The Moonbeam ring and the Moonlight ring are also very good for Dancer with lots of damage taken, HP plus, and Store TP. Any of the other rings you would want to get, you would want to farm, such as the Epona's ring from Abyssea, or the Gare ring from the Odin High Tier Battlefield. That being said, if you look at my gear now, this is a UNM belt. This is a UNM neck. These are from High Tier Battlefield, Malignants. So, the next thing I would point out is once you started to complete your JSEs and get them to 119, and you've done the Ambiscade gears and everything else, the next place you would be heading is Rabao. And honestly, you want to start doing that early anyway, so that you can start to get access for when somebody's able to take you in. So, once you wind up getting just a lot of this gear taken care of. Oh, we still got the fireworks in our bow. Yeah, they are. Woohoo! But once you start getting some of that gear, you start pursuing UNMs. You beat them, and you wind up getting something from them randomly. Sometimes it can be one of their gear pieces. And then you can trade 50 of their body parts to upgrade it to its +1. Sometimes you'll even get the +1 right away. And then once you go through this content, Odyssey, you're going to actually even start to augment them with drops that drop from these various zones. It's a little bit complicated, and I won't get into every detail of it, but just know that in your Unity NPC, they'll tell you what item is required, and it links. So Shield A manages up to level 122 UNMs, Shield B goes up to 128, Shield C winds up doing the rest of them. And you'll wind up deciding a whole bunch of things. My Link Shell mates are over here getting ready for Odyssey. Yeah, it's popular content, and a lot of people wind up doing it. The next type of gear I would point out would be like the Gear Ring, which comes from high-tier Battlefield. And that's something that you also gain access to if you've done the original fight in the missions. You can spend 10 to sometimes up to 25 merits, and you can wind up being very effective. Everybody's all waving. I got blush and embarrassment. But that being said, Unity gear, high-tier Battlefield gear would be things you start to pursue. And then you go into Odyssey, which you talk to this Moogle here. He gives you Moglophones, and there are 3 shields. And then from there, you actually gain access to something called the Guiles. And that's the boss floor. And you spend segments, and you buy these Moglophone 2s for 3,000. And once you have 3, you can enter the boss lobby. Once you've beaten a boss, you start being able to get equipment to purchase. And there are 4 tiers of bosses. Somebody can take you into the later ones. For my Link Show, what I like to do is I'll take people in to the final boss so they can unlock Niame. You've seen me talk about this gear. It's gone a lot cheaper than it's 7.5 mil. It's 90% cheaper than it was in the past. And I think this is the lowest price it will ever be. Maybe it'll go down lower. But there's 4 augment paths with this gear. A magic path, a pet path, a weapon skill path, and a TP gain path. I tell everybody to go after the weapon skill damage path because it also has double attack, and it will serve as a TP gain set as well. The other paths, while impressive, just are not as strong. So personally, I tell everybody to go on the path 2. But this is an armor set I would encourage you to go after with friend or even slowly working on it yourself. And then the next gear that dancers get access to from Odyssey is from the fish. And that's a Atonement 3. And that would be the Galletti set. So the Galletti knife, you've seen me talk about as an offhand. It has triple attack 6, waltz potency plus 10%, and critical hit rate 5%, plus haste 2%. Lots of magic. Dagger skill 255. That's more than the turret. And lots of things. So this is a great offhand. But even a main hand if you don't have better yet. The Galletti armor, in particular, has a lot of regain and critical hit physical damage limit. It can hit really hard when you're buffed, with a couple of other things on it, like waltz potency and stuff for other jobs. But these armors I would encourage you to get right away. This is the most modern gear, and you can actually even start to augment it once you've fought certain bosses. Now that being said, we're going to move over to the Nomad Moogle here. So we have to have a little bit of conversations. I'm going to end on one last note. When it comes to the augments of the gear, and what gear you should go after first, you have 3 sets with Dancer, right? This is the artifact set I have on now. I'm going to explain what I would say are the first pieces you should go after for these sets, or upgrade. And the reason I'm prioritizing them is because it's so expensive to finish these pieces. So that said, the hands are the first piece you should go after on Dancer. The hands wind up having weapon skill damage plus 10, step accuracy plus 40. And because of this, it is invaluable. You can pair it with the Regal Ring and get a bonus, and you'll see that in my weapon skill sets. The next piece that I would probably go after on the artifact set is the head. The head winds up giving you Samba duration plus 45. And then you even get more from the job point bonuses later. And you get your Sambas up to almost 4 minutes and change. So that's really useful. It saves you a lot of time. After that, I would go after the body, which increases your waltzes and has waltz ability delay as well. And you'd be able to spam cures very quickly. After that, I would probably go after the legs, or the feet rather, because it has waltz potency. But waltz potency is only so important once you're at 50% cap. And then the final piece I upgraded was the legs. The legs have skill chain bonus plus 16, which is really nice if you're trying to know you have a skill chain. But unfortunately, it's not something you need a lot. One thing I would point out is the Niame armor also has skill chain bonus on all of its pieces, and Dancer has skill chain bonus as well. So you actually only need 19 skill chain bonus to cap. And there's some ways to do that now. But that's the order that I would get the artifact stuff. Then, the relic stuff is a little bit different. That comes from what I said, the Dynamis Divergence once you're upgrading it. And the first piece to go after there is the legs. Unlike the artifact where I go last, it has the jig duration, weapon skill damage plus, and it is the most important one to go after first. The next one I would go after is the feet. The feet have stored TP, step accuracy, step TP consume minus 20, and then they also increase the potency when you're facing the mob, and you have closed position merits. It's very powerful. The next one I would go after that is the body, with its triple attack 4, resist amnesia 35, and violent flourish accuracy bonus. After that, I would go after the hands for its counter and its fan dance effect bonus. And then lastly, I would go after the head for the waltz potency and the trance duration bonus. If you're really jonesing for inventory and you just want basic Dancer, just get the legs and get the artifact hands. That said, the third job-specific set let's see if I can find it all right. Oh, where do I have all my JSE armor? I actually don't think I have my legs in here. Nope. Yep. My poor legs get hated on. I wonder if I have them in my satchel. That's a good time to show you all Find All. It's a window add-on. Oh, it's in storage. Okay, well, let's go and see if I can pull that up first. Here we go. So, these are about to be upgraded when Sortie comes out. And I have gotten to look over the stats, and they are confirmed in the data at BGWiki. I might even add a screenshot of it onto this video in post-processing, so if so, I'll probably have that next to Shuka of what the actual version is going to look like for the Plus 2. But it winds up getting DT added to it and physical damage limit added to it to try to make it a little better. And more modern attack and accuracy and things. The whole set has a lot of that, but physical damage limit's what they added to this. It's still not enough to impress me, sadly. But yeah, it's probably still going to stay in a box. But let's look at the other 4 pieces because they're really important. The number 1 piece, and if you're that Jones for inventory person who only wants to get a couple JSEs, you're getting the head. The head increases critical hit damage from Climactic Flourish by 25%, and it gives you a whole nother attack round. It also has lots of stored TP, and the plus 2 upgrade has added more critical hit damage and even more to it. Weapon skill damage, and it's just nasty. It's getting even more nasty of a piece. So that would be the first piece you would want. After that, the next piece I would go after is the hands for the reverse flourish bonus. It makes your reverse flourish bonuses give way more TP back. The next piece I would go after is the feet, and they wind up increasing your feather step so that the critical hit down rate is 14% at level 10. And it'll actually go up to 15% if we get the plus 2s. The final pieces I would go after, other than the legs, which I said I'd go after last, is the body. The body has a bonus to striking flourish, which guarantees a double attack, and I usually pair it with certain weapon skills. This is going to go up to 65% critical hit rate when using striking flourish. That's impressive. So that's not something to scoff at for sure. Climactic is better, but striking flourish has a 20-second recast, so that can be used pretty rapidly. Those are all the JSEs that I would go after. There are earrings and rings and things. Most of them are not very good for Dancer, but there is an earring coming out from Sortie, which will have physical damage limit 7. Oh, it's plus 2 version anyway, and skill chain bonus 7. That's going to be really impressive, and if it has random augs too, I would encourage going after that. But once you have all 3 of those sets, Odyssey gear, and the gears I've told you about, that pretty much covers all modern gear in the game. There is a couple pieces of gear from quests or missions and things that you get, such as by finishing wings, you wind up getting the Moonshade Ring, and you can pick an augment. TP bonus is the one you want to pick, by the way, not refresh. But that's one. There's a couple other pieces, like you have the Nation necks now from Diversious Resurgence. So there's the UNM neck, and yeah. So there's a lot of things that I would point out in the growth path here. Lastly, let's talk about it. I know you've been waiting. I use the Aeonic Dagger. There are a total of 3 that the Dancer has access to currently, and I believe a 4th is going to come out with the Prime. I currently do not have the Mythic or the Imperium. I play a lot of different jobs, so I spend a lot of my energy getting those weapons as well to flesh everything out. The Mythic I am working on, so I'll probably get that pretty soon. The Imperium is on a slow burner. I want to finish my Bard Harp first. But honestly, once you have a weapon at this point, you're going to be doing a lot of damage regardless. And I wouldn't worry so much about getting the perfect weapon, but going after the weapon that you and your team or yourself are capable of doing. Otherwise, you're going to get stuck midway with no weapon. But once you have one, I like the Aeonics because they involve modern fights. They're powered up right away and have very little trials. They don't cost as much money as the others. And they're still very powerful with a TP bonus 500 and store TP 10 on all of them. And that's why I prefer them when I can use them. But the Mythic Dagger for Dancer increases your steps by 1 for every step, even when it's maxed out. And then the Twashtar, the Imperium Dagger, does more damage with Rudra Storm than any other dagger. And I've already shown you the turret, and I've shown you that the SU5 is kind of meh, and we don't know what the prime weapon looks like yet. But I love pairing the Galetti Dagger offhand with the Aeonic Dagger. With all the TP bonus that I get with the earring and everything else, you could be spamming Rudra Storms at 1.25k and be getting really big numbers. But those are the legendary daggers. Other weapons that I would point out that I'm fond of would be like the Turnian Dagger as a UNM dagger. And I don't have mine augged yet, but oh man, does it get some good augments. The Akrantika is an Odyssey Dagger for just Dancers and Thieves, and it has a lot of enmity and store TP and damage taken 8. It's a great tanking offhand. The Horus Dagger is what I use as the SU4, testing it to lower flourish duration. It's not that great. The Errancy Floret comes from Incursion, and it's a neat little offhand I like to use when casting magic, like sub-scholar stuff. You can actually use the Occult Acumen to cast spells to gain TP, and then go in and weapon skill. Showing you the Rapier. And other ones that would be good would be like, I don't know if I have it on this menu. I probably have it in a box. But the Demersal Degen from the upgraded Sea Monk UNM is like a Joyeuse +1. Or +10, I guess, depending on how you look at it. But it's a modern version of the Joyeuse, or the Joy Toy as we call it in the 75 era. So the other one I would point out other than that would be the Karambit, which is the Finnish Ambuscade hand-to-hand. Dancers can equip it, and with critical hits, you wind up getting massive TP bonus. So, that being said, I've talked a lot about gear. Oh, look at that, Rabal's music started. I guess it's because it's the morning. I've talked a lot about gear and the path that you follow for it. And if you've made it this far, I really want to thank you guys. A lot of people who've played the game are already aware of most of what the best gears are, or they'll go on FFXI and they'll just try to go after the top pieces of gear in the guide. Some of them are going to be impossible for you by yourself, by the way. But I'm trying to show you guys the path of progression. You can go to Incursion and get a CP cape. There is a couple other items, like I showed you that sword. There's not a lot there. Delve has some great accessories. Ambiscade has lots of great stuff. Odyssey has lots of great stuff. These should be your primary priorities. There's a lot of points you need. There's a lot of things to buy. And when you have spare time and spare money, you should start to upgrade your job-specific equipment. Once you start to have everything, or you start to have stuff to piece together, you can wind up starting to equip things to do more amazing things. Like I've already shown you my Climactic Flourish set before, but I'll go to it again. Climactic Flourish 25, we talked about that. We actually talked today about the Mega Honda. We talked about the hands. We talked about the feet. And then I have a Herculean Aug with weapon skill damage 8 and critical damage 3. I would probably use the Niame here if I didn't have this. But you can piece things together. The Fotia belt and neck are complex quests, but they're really nice weapon skill pieces. And you can piece things together. That actually comes from Mimic. Silver vouchers, which I didn't mention. It's essentially a lotto that you can play a little bit each month as you do monthly quests. And sometimes you get lucky and get one of these items, or sometimes you'll get a really rare BCNM item. You essentially get anything in the game from them. Oh, I did forget about this. This is the Imperium ammo for Dancer. You don't actually have to use this, though. There is another ammo you can get access to from the auction house or crafting that has the same effect. Though the Dex +5 helps the Ruger be bigger for sure. Anyways, that being said, I wanted to describe the gear path in Final Fantasy XI Modern, and essentially where you start, what you should start with when you're 99, what you should start working on, and where it kind of ends in 2022. The last thing I'll end with you guys on, just a bonus note, is subjob selection. Now I have every job at 99. I've been working on it a long time, and I've even gone through Dynamis on every zone with every job. It's been a lot of gaming over the years. But for subjob selection for Dancer, I usually go Paladin now, but that's because I have master levels, and master levels raise your subjob level. And so that gives me access to things like raise and more abilities even. Or if I sub Dragoon, I can super jump all my enmity away. So Paladin, Dragoon, Samurai, and Rune Fencer are probably my top subs. The two, Rune Fencer and Paladin, for tanking when I'm on Dancer and I'm in danger, depending on what kind of danger it is. I tend to go Paladin if I'm unsure because I'll have Raise. I sub Dragoon when I'm doing endgame content, not the tank, so I can shed my hate. When I'm solo a lot and I have to kill a monster quickly, sub Samurai with its Sekinoki and Meditate and everything are super useful. Other ones I'd point out is if I'm fighting Undead, sub Monk lets me get more hand-to-hand weapon skills and helps me punch through skellies and other things weak to blunt a lot quicker. Sub Ninja has always been a classic, and you still get the Utsasemi shadows, which are really nice. Then from there, Sub Scholar is another one that I would mention a teeny bit, because you can actually sleep things. When you sub Scholar Dark Arts, you actually get magic skills like a 99 mage, and you'd actually be able to land sleep some things with enough magic accuracy. It's quite unusual, but it does work. And sometimes you do need access to magic, so don't underestimate Sub Scholar. Sub White Mage also is something I would use like when farming something risky and I need lots of re-raises, or I need to raise people a lot. But usually I would do Sub Paladin for such a thing. The other sub I would point out is a little unusual, but it would be Dark Knight and Thief. Thief is a good sub because you can get more critical hits, but honestly, usually you're pretty good with your own abilities. You would sub Thief for Treasure Hunter if you don't have any good Treasure Hunter gear yet. You get up to Treasure Hunter 2 from the sub, and 2 more for a total of Treasure Hunter 4 on any non-Thief job. And Dark Knight. Dark Knight as a sub is only really useful if you're fighting Arcana, like the top floor Omen boss. But oh man, there's Arcane Circle and whatnot, and even having access to stun is pretty useful, because it's a little more reliable than the Dancer stun. Those are all sub-jobs I would use. Sub-Warrior is also incredibly common because of Fencer and the double attack bonuses. You can even put on a shield, like a crappy shield, and get massive bonuses to your Rudra Storm. It sounds unintuitive to be a sword and shield or dagger and shield dancer, but it actually works. Red Mage is rarely something you'd pick as a sub. Beastmaster's not something. Ranger, Summoner, Corsair, Geomancer. Those wouldn't be picked as a sub for Dancer very often. Blue Mage would on occasion. There's some tricks you could do with that. Bard would be pretty rare. Black Mage would be pretty rare. And that covers the sub-jobs. I know it's a little bit of a short chat with the sub-jobs, but there isn't a ton to say. You get their job abilities, and they're very, very useful. A lot of times you want to strategize depending upon what you're fighting, and that's going to impact your sub-job. Fighting an Omen top floor boss, Sub-Dark Knight might be good. If you don't got Sub-Dark Knight, Sub-Warrior would be really good, or Sub-Paladin or Rune Fencer if you want to be sturdier. If you're going into solos, you might want some samurai so you have more access to TP games. If you're really scared, might want a sub ninja so you can keep shadows up. And you keep your survivability up much higher. So all of these are all relevant and can combine to make a very flexible dancer. And I hope that you learned something today about gear progression, subjob selection, and some of my priorities. I know I said that I wanted to try to do this within 3, but I will be doing a part 4 to this guide. And in part 4, I plan to cover combos and tactics advanced. So if anybody's been waiting for that, that's going to be the final video. And at some point I may do a video where I clean up all of this into a more compressed form, one watch all video. But we'll see. We'll see. No promises on that yet. I don't know if it'd be smart to avoid any of this information if you're a beginner player. But thank you so much, everybody, for watching so far. And I don't like to say any of this kind of like, subscribe crap. But if you like the stuff, you know what to do. I'm not going to sit here and beg. But I am going to keep making stuff. And I appreciate everybody checking it out. So, I hope to see you all next time. That Shuko's out. Take care, everybody.